Doctor, you're mute.
Okay, now you can all hear? Yeah, okay. Good morning again. And I was just saying, is that Alvaro behind Cecil? Oh my goodness. It's all grown up.
Yeah, he's now 12.
Oh, wow. How's martial arts going?
Very well. Yes, very well.
Oh, good.
Now he's first dan.
Ah,
Yeah, he passed the black belt. Now he's
okay.
the first dan. Yeah.
I see. So I should not mess up when I'm around him. Got to be careful.
No, he's gonna be your bodyguard.
Oh, good, good, good. Yes, yes.
He could be your bodyguard, and you will be fine in Guatemala.
Oh, okay, good, good, good. Wow, that's very good to know. Yes. When I go, you guys take good care of me. I never even know if there's any danger in Guatemala, you know.
No, no.
People tell me later, oh, you know. It's like, really? But like anywhere in the world, when you're not there, you know, you have a weird idea about what the place is. So
yeah, everything is related to the news, I think.
yes, yes, yeah.
The news that never tell the good things.
Right, right. And also hard for them to even want to tell the whole picture, you know. And so I hear, you know, how bad certain things are in Malaysia, and my parents, you know, so I call them and ask them, and they're like, what are you talking about? Then they hear, you know, about all the bad things that are happening in the US, and they call me panicking. And I say, what are you talking about? That should say something, you know.
Yeah, that happened to us when we came here in the 70s, when we came to Guatemala in the 70s.
Yeah, from Mexico, yeah?
Yeah, at that time, Mexico was very calm, very quiet, and they couldn't understand what was happening here with the guerrilla. So
yeah.
It was different.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are difficult times for sure. But in part, the difficulty is how we are exposed to the difficulties.
Yes.
Please keep that in mind. Like I said, even if we don't have enough confidence, or if we don't have enough training to see everything as appearances of mind, at the very least, each time we see something, we hear something, we read something, we have to at least remind ourselves that in this situation, at least 50% is my perception, right? Let's at least strike a balance and not immediately 100% assume, you know, that immediately surrender to, oh, it must be like this, rather than it appears to me this way, you know. So Buddha's teachings actually say, like, everything is the appearances of your own mind. But right now, you know, we find it hard to accept that. And some of us even can give very good reason to say, oh, no, I cannot. Because if I accept that, then that means, you know, there are so many problems. I will then have the conclusion I'm not going to go fix it because I just think it's my own mind. Okay, fine. Fine. If that's where you are, even that, at least we have to accept at least 50%, you know, of what we think is going on inside our heads, so to say. And that 50%, we need to at least take responsibility for that 50%. Whatever we're not happy about, that 50%, we can we can do something about it. You know, we might not be able to stop the violence or the ridiculousness that we see that is happening out there, but 50% of what we are seeing and how we are reacting, that 50%, we can do something. So that is my job to say that, you know, as the Buddhist teacher. Then someone else's job is to explain to you how to make this a more just world, a more peaceful world, all of that. Then your job in the end to connect these two.
Yeah, in these hard times, I have had happiness too, because my daughter is here. Yeah, she has been living here. She's not in Florida now.
Right. Ooh, Florida is a little dangerous, I hear. Again, my perception, because I'm not there.
Actually, we were in a spring break when this happened. So she didn't went back to Florida. She came here just to stay for a few days. For a few days, it has been like, I don't know, 3 months. Yeah. But I've been very happy with both of them here.
Good.
And my mother, you know.
Excellent. So let's now chapter 15, yeah? The Shakyamuni. Siddhartha is about to leave. He has seen the four sights, yeah? He has encountered the four sights. The last time we met on this subject, I talked about this. So there's a video for that. I think that video is good. You know, you should watch it if you didn't see it. It talks about how the Buddha encountered these four sights and how we can understand from his story our situation, our ability or inability to be like him, and where we get stuck, where we get confused, and how his example can serve as a template for us. Now here, it says, you know, that the Bodhisattva Siddhartha, so he plans to leave now. Then he thought, I should say something to my father. If I don't, it would be very ungrateful. So he decides to say something. So on 15:5, section 5 of chapter 15, standing in front of the king, he said, "My lord, now the time is right for me to leave home. Please do not hinder me and don't be distraught. My king, may you, my family, and the people of the kingdom forgive me." The king replied with tears filling his eyes, "What will it take for you to change your mind? Will you ask me for a boon? Tell me, I will give you anything. I am yours, and you can have the palace, the servants, and this whole kingdom." Then in a sweet voice, the Bodhisattva replied, "My lord, I wish for 4 boons. Please grant them to me." So the father is basically saying, don't leave, you know, whatever it is that is causing you to be so unhappy, I will fix it for you. He's thinking, well, I'm king, you know, so I will give you a boon. I will fulfill your wishes, whatever I can do to keep you here, not to leave. So the Bodhisattva says, in that case, if you can give me these 4 things, then I will stay. If you're able to give them to me, you will have power over me. You will always see me here at home, and I will not depart. I want my Lord to be unharmed by old age, to retain my fine complexion and youth forever, to be healthy and without disease, and to have infinite life without death ever coming. That's what we all want. We might not admit it. Logically, we will not say, this is what I want. Emotionally, this is what we want. And this is the delusion that we carry with us all over the place. Then from time to time, the devas and the gods sent us reminders. Unlike Siddhartha, who recognized the devas showing him the reality of samsaric existence, in our case, when we get those reminders, we get very upset. How dare he call me old? How dare she thinks that I'm useless? Back in the day when I did so much, they have no idea what I have done. We say that to our kids, perhaps, when we get old. How dare they, So instead of recognizing the works of the devas to stir us up and wake us up, we get upset, we get insulted, As yesterday, I think Larry reminded us, this pandemic, for example, we fear so much death. Then some of us are even more noble. We fear the death of others. But with or without pandemic, we die, everybody die. Not that we should be rushing there, but we first have to see, like that is the underlying unease that we have. So you see, again, not as either or, it's not a substitute for what we can do. Protect yourself, protect your neighbors, your family, all of that. I'm an advocate for that, yes. But if we do that and we think, that's it, then what happened to refuge? Refuge reminds us, yes, while we do all of that, there is a broader, a bigger question, a bigger issue to be resolved, which is our unease, our unwillingness to see that this is all ephemeral, like a drop of dew on a blade of grass. How soon and how quickly that dewdrop is going to dry up or slip off, we have absolutely no idea. So much of modern life is about covering up the stench of death and decay. Everything is hidden away. So living in Asheville, which I really enjoy, but it turns into a God realm, instead of a pure land. The difference between the pure land and the God realm is not much, actually, if you listen to the descriptions of pure lands. Pure lands is where Buddhas are there. And the God realms, actually, very little difference in many, many respects, except for one. Similarly, in the God realms, very unlikely you are even going to smell, urine or feces, unless it's after a weekend, walk around somewhere downtown, you might get a whiff of it, But when you get a whiff of it, you're like, oh, God, terrible. But that's, every human being, excretes that. Again, I'm not saying that they should be around. So I enjoy living in Asheville, But the stench of death and decay, we all hide away. So God realm. In Pure Lands, also no stench of piss and poop, But there, they never forget the Dharma because their minds are turned to Dharma. Some turn to Dharma. Some do not perceive impurity because the mind has truly turned to Dharma. Some do not perceive impurity because it's masking, covering up. That's our situation. We, cover up that which we don't want to see. So if we confuse that and say, oh, therefore, oh, this is like a pure land, it's not. We're just masking things. Yeah. So here he says, I want this, unharmed by old age, retain my fine complexion and youth forever, to be healthy and without disease, and to have infinite life without death ever coming. When the king heard these words, he felt extremely sad. My son, you are asking for the impossible. I am powerless here. Even the sages who live for eons are not beyond degeneration and the dreads of sickness, old age, and dying. My Lord, if you cannot give me these four boons, freedom from misfortune and the terrors of sickness, old age, and dying, then I request you another boon. Please listen, Your Majesty. I wish that after I die, I will not have to take rebirth again. When the king heard these words from the best among men, he diminished his longing, let go of his attachment for his son, and said, then go and benefit and liberate beings. I rejoice in that. May all your wishes be fulfilled. Then the Bodhisattva left and went to his own residence, where he lay down on his bed. No one had even noticed that he had left. Then it said that at daybreak, the king gathered the rest of the clan, especially all the young men. He says, the young prince wants to abandon his home. What should we do? And so they came up with a plan to guard him. All the strong men, came up with plans to guard them, make sure he doesn't leave. Then the women, they also had their plans to keep him occupied. So section 14 of this chapter, Mahaprajapati Gautami, which was Buddha's foster mother. His own mother, Queen Maya, passed away a week after his birth. Prajapati Gautami was Queen Maya's sister. And so she told her servants, light bright lamps and fasten all jewels to the peak of the banners. Hang garlands of pearls and illuminate this entire palace. So her approach is, let's, refurbish, furniture. Let's have a, makeover. Maybe he's tired of the old looks, let's spiff things up, So she is represented sort of like a royal Martha Stewart. Let's have better homekeeping. Maybe then he won't leave, Mahaprajapati Gautami eventually, many years later, she led the first group of women to become the first nuns in the history of the Buddha Dharma. And there's an account of her powers, her spiritual development. They're said to be like greatest among the women. And there is a text like that that speaks of her power as this great nun later in her life. But here, like the rest, she was very much under the power of needing to keep Siddhartha home. So she then told the army, arm yourselves, carry in your hands weapons, swords, lances, bows, arrows, two-pointed spears to guard our beloved prince. First shut all doors, then lock them tight, and place door bolts firmly across the door panels. Unless you must, do not open any door. So on the one hand, do everything to block the door. Then on the other hand, adorn yourselves with necklaces of jewels and pearls. Wear flower ornaments, half-moon ornaments, and chains. Adorn yourself with belts, rings, earrings, Everybody, look like the party will continue, Make him just happy. You girls with lances in your hands who surround the bed of this pure being, you must not slip into laziness, but watch him with eyes like a butterfly. In order to guard the prince, adorn this palace with bejeweled lattices, and take up your flutes and play them to your fullest. Protect the stainless being through the night. Keep each other awake and do not take rest. But meanwhile, section 23, Buddha says, at that point, the 28 great Yaksha generals, such as Panchika, met with the 500 sons of Hariti and voiced their concern. Friends, tonight the Bodhisattva will leave his home. So you should delight in making offerings to him. So in the background, the gods and the deities who know what he has to do and also are waiting for him to do that, they will work on the other side to make this happen. Likewise, the 4 great kings who have entered the Adakavati palace told the great gathering of Yakshas, friends, tonight the Bodhisattva will leave his home. You must help him leave by carrying the hoofs of his fine horse with your hands. So, Vaishravana, which is one of the 4 kings, the king of the northern direction, also said, the Lord of wealth. He said, for people bloated with pride, this teacher will be heavy. For those who are loving and respectful, he will be light. If from your heart you devote yourself to him with respect, you will find him as light as a tuft of cotton is to birds. Basically, in response to his generals who said, carry him, he is too heavy. Yeah. But here he's talking about heavy with qualities. No one, right above, no one can lift the mountain of a victor's qualities, founded on merit and wisdom. So he's heavy. This is also the etymology of the word guru, which we know is teacher. Guru, the etymology is heavy. The commentaries say heavy with qualities. The Buddhist commentaries. But in Sanskrit, other explanations, they say that it's also heavy, the guru, because it's not easy. It's not easy to have a guru. So it's not all just warm and fuzzy. So in a way, you can say these yakshas, these generals, they have a sense of that. They're not saying that he's heavy, as in he needs to go on a diet. They say, he's really heavy with these qualities, We don't think we can carry him. But their boss, Vaishravana, said, if you're bloated with pride, then this teacher, it's a play of the word guru, then this guru, as in Buddha Shakyamuni, yes, he will be heavy. But for those who are loving and respectful, he will be light. Yeah, so a lot of times, we will relate to the teacher that way, or more crucially for me, we will relate to the Dharma in that way. We think that it's heavy. Even though on one side we know those are qualities, on the one side we know we're attracted to it, but then we also sometimes feel, oh, it's heavy. Here it says we feel like that because of pride. Maybe, maybe not. But nonetheless, it's saying, because of our confusion, we see it as heavy. But the answer here is like, if from your heart you devote yourself with respect, with admiration to what the Dharma can do for us, you will find him as light as a tuft of cotton is to birds. Then he said, I will walk in front while you carry his horse. When the Bodhisattva leaves, we shall gather vast amounts of merit. Then all the other deities, also, they're all getting ready. The god Shantamati replied, I will cause all men and women and children in the city of Kapilavastu to fall asleep so that they cannot block him. Then the god Lalitavistara said, I will silence all sounds from horses, elephants, donkeys, camels, cows, buffaloes, women, men, boys, and girls. Silence them, he says. I will silence them. Vihamati said, I will construct in midair a fabulous road, 7 chariots wide, flanked on both sides by jewel platforms. Like he's going to build this special highway, for easy exit. Then the king of elephants, named Airavana, spoke. Upon my trunk I will erect a mansion 32 leagues high. In that mansion, divine maidens can assemble to serve and venerate the Bodhisattva by making music, singing songs, and playing instruments. The king of the gods says, I will open the gates and show him the path, and so on and so forth. So they were all conspiring to support this departure. Meanwhile, the humans, in the palace, they were all, ganging up to keep him. In the meanwhile, the Bodhisattva's mind was on the Dharma. He was resting comfortably in the music hall, surrounded by his ladies. He reflected on the conduct of past Buddhas and the way to benefit all sentient beings. And he was thinking about 4 aspiration prayers that he had formed in the past. So he's recalling, all the great deeds and the promises that he made and the aspirations that he has made. Previously, now we are on section 30. Previously, I wished to become a self-appearing Lord and pursue omniscience. At that time, I donned the armor of the following 4-fold resolve. First, I have seen how sentient beings suffer. So may I free and liberate those who are bound to the world and caught up in the prison of cyclic existence. May I liberate sentient beings from the tight shackles and chains of craving. So that was the first vow, the first resolve. So this is the Bodhisattva vow. Having seen how sentient beings suffer and knowing how we don't want to suffer, then using ourselves as that reference point. If I don't want suffering, dissatisfaction, stress, surely others don't want that as well. So may I free and liberate those who are bound to the world, caught up in the prison of cyclic existence. May I liberate sentient beings from the tight shackles and chains of craving. Craving or thirst, Krishna, is the cause of dukkha. So 2 noble truths are given here. Such was his first aspiration prayer from the past. Next, he thought of his second vow, his second aspiration prayer from the past. May I shine the light of Dharma for those who are thrown deep into the darkness of great ignorance within the world. For the people whose eyes are obscured by the cataract of ignorance, who lack the eye of wisdom, who are blind with ignorance and delusion. This cataract of ignorance, there's a elaboration on this analogy. It says that due to this cataract that we have growing, or this eye problem, we begin to imagine seeing what they call flowers in the air. So they're like things floating in the air. So then we think, oh my God, there are these things floating in the air. So flowers would be maybe attractive things, Then due to the same eye cataract, you might see giant spiders, floating in the air. So in that case, unless you're a fan of spiders, you'd be like, right? So like and dislike, love and hate arose because of this cataract. So if we think that the problem is there is indeed spiders hanging out, in the midair, or flowers in the midair, then we will exhaust ourselves chasing the flowers and killing the spiders. When in fact, the defect is the cataract that is growing on the eye. So remove that cataract. Remove the cataract of confusion, and then we will regain eyesight. 2020. May I raise the lamp of wisdom which destroys the darkness for those who are blinded by ignorance. May I apply the medicine of 3 gateways to liberation, the remedy that employs means wisdom and knowledge. Means method, methods. May I remove the darkness of ignorance of all cataracts and faults of dullness, and in this way purify their wisdom eye. So first of all, may I remove my own darkness of ignorance and all cataracts and faults of dullness. And in this way, I actually have the basis, the means, and the conditions for facilitating the purification of their wisdom eye. Then the Bodhisattva thought of his third aspiration, prayer from the past. Alas, this world has raised the banner of pride and egotism. It is obsessed with clinging to I and mine. People's minds grasp at the self, and false notions of a self distort their views. So here is a very brief teaching on the issue of self and what we say not self. Often you have heard, that, Buddhism or Buddha taught that there's no self. But maybe better to say not self. But in any case, here's what it's saying. Maybe one way, a way that we can all, I think, kind of appreciate is that whenever a sense of self or I turns up, when you feel that strongly, try to see and try to recognize that how that self appears to be and how it actually is, there is often a discrepancy. And trouble starts when we don't see that discrepancy between how the self appears to be and how it actually is. How it actually is that it is not it. How it actually is that self is always a process of self-making. Does that make sense? What we call self. The reality is that it's always a process of self-making. In Sanskrit, ahankara. That this self is always being produced from moment to moment. So from moment to moment, conditions are always changing. When conditions line up in a way that we habitually label as, ooh, nice, I like, then the self that turns up is a very agreeable self. It's often a very generous self, a very patient self. Everything is good. Yeah, life is good. No problem, So that self certainly turns up. But we don't recognize how fragile that self actually is. We think that self is permanent, or at least we want it to be. So then it takes on the appearance of being stable, permanent, reliable, unchanging, until, 20 minutes later, the conditions shift. Then maybe not immediately no more happy, jolly self, but it has now happy, jolly self minus 1. A little bit of has turned up, right? A little bit of has turned up. Then things change. A little bit more has turned up. Then that self has disappeared. Then on top of that, we get upset at the fact that that self has disappeared. Either we lash out at other people, it's their fault, that happy Hun is no more here, Or sometimes we lash out at the imaginary hun that was here half an hour ago. Or we lash out at the current hun that is finding himself no longer happy hun, generous hun, patient hun from half an hour ago. All these are constantly shifting, changing conditions. It is obsessed with clinging to I and mine. People's minds grasp at the self, and false notions of a self distort their views. Buddha is not asking us to, leap into, selflessness, like, die for the sake of others and all those sort of things, you don't leap into that. And that's not where the problem is. The problem is how not seeing this process of self-making, which is an ongoing, constant process of self-making, and then being fooled by that, then it says here, it distort our views. It distort our ability to see clearly. So he said, seeing that, may I bring down this banner of pride that thinks I am. That is ahankara, I am. Ahang. Ahang is I am. And the process of I am ing, the verb there, ahankara, here I am. May I bring down this banner of pride that thinks I am by showing them the noble path. Finally, the Bodhisattva thought of his fourth aspiration, prayer from the past. Alas, this world is not at peace because of that self. The world is continually disturbed and is like a tangled mass of cords, entanglement. We get all entangled. Beings come and go. They always move and circle back and forth between this world and the next. Their spinning around knows no end and resembles a firebrand circle. A firebrand circle, it's not really there, but through movement, you see it as a circle. May I show them the Dharma of tranquility, which brings fulfillment through knowledge. The Dharma of tranquility is when all inflammation is cooled. The cool state of being awake. The ultimate cool. The original cool, before James Dean, the original cool is the Buddha. Right then, the god Dharmacharan and the gods of the Pure Ones made the retinue of consorts appear unappealing. After the gods had revealed the consorts' unpleasant and unattractive features, they took position in the sky and uttered the following verse. Now, it seems unnecessary, I don't think at that point the Siddhartha was still looking at supposedly his father provided him with like tens of thousands of consorts. Again, Indians and their numbers. Remember I was talking about? Just lop off, 6 or 7 zeros behind. And there's still plenty. Whatever it is, when they tell you there was 100,000, just lop off, a number of zeros behind, and still there's plenty to go around. So then the next section, is talking about like up until section 39, talked about, how he looked around, and saw all his consorts and servants and all these beautiful women and young girls and older women, whoever, all around, they are asleep and they are drooling and they are, snoring. And so it's like the gods make them look, extra kind of like, oh, that's what people do when they're asleep. Uh, so there is for sure cultural stuff going on here, you know. I said, you know, we are assuming, you know, we know from his stories and all that, that he was attracted to women. And so then, you know, women, you know, described this way. If Buddha was a woman who was attracted to men, then you will have all this turn around. Then whatever attraction, you know, the gods are trying to show. That we selectively look at the things that we like and we try to just remember that. And we ignore, right, all the other things. So a lot of how we relate to things is we simply generalize, you know. So I remember one time I have a professor in graduate school, and she was teaching this class called Introduction to Buddhism, an undergraduate class. She was very skillful. Huh? She used a different way of bringing this point across. And so she did a thought exercise with the class, 200-300 students. She said, okay, now think about someone, you know, that you really have an infatuation on. Of course, you know, 18-year-olds, you know, in college, oh my God, I'm sure immediately they can think of 7. And probably, you know, 4 of them are around them in the same class. Probably that's why they sign up for that class. Possibly. I say, so, you know, think of someone that you're really, you know, infatuated by and you fantasize about. And, you know, so think of that person, you know, right in front of you. So she did this, you know, she said, close your eyes. And so the class was expecting some sort of, you know, serenely watch your breath, in breath, out breath. But instead she went in this direction, you know, so now it's getting interesting. So I was the teaching assistant. I was like, oh, where is she going to go with this? And she said, okay, then, you know, she didn't go too far. You know, she said, you know, look at this person, look at all the reasons why, you know, you're so desirous of this person and this. And so I'm thinking she's going to go now, okay, like age them, you know, which is a classic kind of Buddhist thing. You age them, keep aging them until they're a pile of, you know, bones, you know. She didn't do that. She kept describing, okay, now there's this, and then she did. And then, so when all is like, and then, and she goes, and then suddenly they stick their right index finger up the nose and dig out a booger. And then everybody laughed, and she goes, now, how sexy is that? It's like immediately any thoughts of anything that you might want to do with this person, you know, temporarily, all of that is just quelled. We selectively choose and say, oh, you're so beautiful, so wonderful, so whatever, you know. That's why I said, you know, when things go well with people around us, you know, we write poems about, you know, even, you know, your passing gas, you know, smells like, you know, perfume. When things are not right, you know, you turn around in the middle of the night, you know, there's an extra pillow and you go, should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? It's like even your breathing is keeping me awake. Those conditions are so unstable, you know. This is not to say, I'm not telling you or advocating that you do any of these murderous thoughts or anything, okay? It's just we have to see, you know. And when we see more clearly, right, even on a mundane level, forget about like this great step forward. On the mundane level, it also brings more harmony, I think, in the house. In the relationships that we are in. We have less fantasies, how and expectations of how you want this person to be this way or that way. And you can accept some days you are just holding back the pillow and other days, you know, you're like, oh, you smell so good. Even the way you munch your food, you know, it's so cute, you know. And on other days, you're like, you know, can you not make so much noise eating? Just see all these ups and downs. That's just, part of the package of samsara. See that. Understand the nature of things. And all this points back to, your perception. What has changed? Even the day before you met them, they were munching that way. And today, they are still munching that way. Sometimes, oh, so cute. Sometimes, oh, God, did nobody tell her? It's our perception. So guard our hearts, safeguard our hearts. At least half the time, or at least half of whatever you encounter, you have to credit yourself and say, I need to take responsibility for that half. Yeah. So tomorrow we will continue from this section. There's a lot in this section, in this chapter. And tomorrow the practice will be the Buddha Shakyamuni practice with the Anapanasati meditation. So we will meet again tomorrow. You have a good day, have a good weekend, have a good evening, have a good sleep. Some of you are on the other side of the world. So the final dedication is go to our dedication text. The Refuge and Generating Bodhicitta in Stages text. On page 3, there is the dedication prayers. So together we will say this all in English. Great Vajradhara, Dilipa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Kampopa, Pamodrupa and Conqueror Digungpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of all you Kagyu Gurus. By this merit may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions. May the 80,000 classes of obstructors be pacified, thus freeing this place from unfavorable and harmful conditions. May harmonious and excellent endowments be established, and with this auspiciousness bring about bliss and happiness. May there be well-being in the world and good harvest, much yield of grain and flourish of dharma. May auspiciousness be established in all places, and all that is wished for fulfilled. By the collections of favorable conditions and resources for the dharma for ourselves and others be fulfilled according to our wishes. May the multitudes of diseases, evil spirits, obstructors, hindrances, and others be appeased and pacified. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. By the blessings of the Buddhas who have attained the 3 kayas, by the blessings of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessings of the indivisible Sangha order, may these dedication aspiration prayers be accomplished. May the teachings of the great Drikungpa Ranashri, the all-knowing Dharma Lord, Master of interdependence, continue to increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Ta-ta!
Ta! Thank you.